Hello everyone, welcome to part 2 of our little asset creation tutorial for our headstone. In part 1 we created the base mesh and unwrapped it in 3D Studio Max. Now in part 2 we are going to shoot over to ZBrush to add a little bit of complexity to it, add a bit of detail. So let's fire over to the software here. ZBrush, not my favourite program in the world, not one I'm very familiar with. Very unintuitive UI. It will take you a while if you've never used it before to get used to it. The output you can get from it, fantastic, but personally I just don't really like the interface. I don't use it very much. For this I am using a graphics tablet. It will make your life a lot easier if you have one. You can do everything without a graphics tablet. You can use your mouse, but if this kind of stuff is something you're interested in, it is worth investing in. Even the cheapest, nastiest graphics tablet will make your job a lot easier rather than trying to use a mouse. Okay, so we're in ZBrush here. This is the screen that you'll get when you open your menu. To get rid of this thing here that we don't really need, this little panel, we just hit the comma key on the keyboard. So let me select that there. Hit the comma key on the keyboard. What we want to do in ZBrush, we can actually start sculpting from scratch if we want. But my preferred workflow is to start with a low poly model that's made and unwrapped in 3D Studio Max, and then we export that as an OBJ file from 3ds Max, as we did in the last video. And then in this little tool window here, we just come up and we click on the import button. And then what we do is we navigate to where we saved that. Now let me see, where did I save it now? See, I need to navigate here. Navigate. There we go. So navigated it to where I saved that. This is my low poly headstone mesh that I exported from 3D Studio Max. So just double click that. And it won't open here right away. What we've actually done here is we've added it to ZBrush's tools library. So ZBrush, I'll not get into it. All I'll say is that we now have this 3D mesh stored in ZBrush's library, and all we have to do to bring it out here, with it selected as the active one here, click on that, we get a list of tools we can choose, but when we import it, it'll become the active tool. All we'll do is click and drag that tool out into our window. And you can see now, just because of the way we oriented it in 3D Studio Max, it is sideways in ZBrush. So there we go, that is it out. At the minute, I cannot, actually let me just redo that, whoops. At the minute I cannot draw. It is, again, ZBrush being weird. I'll do a more detailed ZBrush tutorial later on. For now, I want you just to click this little button here that says Edit. And then I want you to come over here and click this little button that says Make Polymesh 3D. And what this will allow you to do, it's been so long since you used ZBrush, I forgot the controls. Let me see, rotate you around. There we go. There is our headstone. So yeah, ZBrush is just weird. In order for me to sculpt on and actually paint stuff on here, I need to click those two little buttons. I need to put in edit mode and then make Polymesh 3D. I'll explain why in a later video, but I want to try and keep this one a little bit shorter. So what do we actually want to do here? I've got my low poly mesh. To rotate around, I'm literally just clicking and dragging on a piece of empty space. And if I want to get a particular angle straight on, I just hold shift and it will lock it to the nearest axis. If I want to move around, how did I do that? I can't even remember. Yes, move around, hold the Alt key, and then click and drag on empty space, and we can pan around our screen. It's I've never been able to just recall off the top of my head the controls for ZBrush. Okay, what do I want to do? At the minute, we have a very, very low poly count on this guy. And ZBrush, we can subdivide it massively and give it a lot of space. And what that, give it a lot of polygons, sorry. And then we can sculpt those polygons and manipulate them. Try and move this down here. Okay. What we're going to do, we're going to click on this little geometry tab here. And we'll click on that. And there's a little option here called Dynamesh. I want to click this. And I just want to click on Dynamesh and hit OK. And what this will do, although it's kind of cut off here because I'm low resolution, it will increase our poly count massively. I click this little button here. There we go, got my polyframes on. You can now see my polygon count for this model. You remember it from the OBJ file, and it was only about 70, 100 polygons total. What Dynamesh does is it subdivides the model and basically puts a little square grid on here. And you can see up the top right here, although it was cut off, it's now actually went from about 100 polygons up to about 30,000. But we actually want even more polygons than that. So what we're going to do, just deactivate Dynamesh there. We're going to click on this wee button here that says divide. And this is going to subdivide our object into smaller and smaller polygons. So I click that once. And you can see our numbers went up. So it went from 30,000 up to about 122,000. But I'm going to click it again. Now we're up to 491,000. That's about 500,000 polys. And do I want to go any more? I'm just going to turn off this frame button here. I hate ZBrush so much. Turn off. No, turn off. There we go. So now if I draw on this, you can see we're getting nice smooth lumpy designs coming on there. So just Control-Z to undo that, and you can see as we go to the side we can start pulling that out. Okay, so that's it. I've divided it enough. That's all I want to do. What I want to do now, I've got it set up nicely that I can start sculpting in some detail on here. So I can make my, this is my basic brush, the basic standard brush, and it works similar to Photoshop. Z intensity is the strength of the brush. Draw size is how big the brush will be, and focus shift will adjust the kind of the soft edge of that brush. So we'll make it nice and small, high intensity. And here we can carve out of the model, or if we hold the Alt key, we can actually carve into the model. Something not right here. Nope, that's not correct. My ZBrush has been a little bit glitchy here. It defaults to Z add mode, which will increase the height. When I hold the Alt key, yes it is, it will turn it into Z sub mode, just temporarily, and you can see there that regularly it's adding height to it, and with Alt pressed it's digging into the model, taking height away from it. So let's see if I can zoom in here on that to get you a better look. You can just about see there on the surface it's starting to raise out. So I actually want to do that. I didn't want to do any of that at all. And what we're going to do, we're going to add some wee chips next to this here. Just weather it down a wee bit. So what I'm going to do, I am going to go over here to the brush panel, and here we have all different kinds of brushes. We can do lots of stuff with ZBrush. The brush I'm going to use here is called the Dame Standard brush, and this is one that is very popular for doing lots of stuff when modeling. And when we cover this, it's very, very similar to the standard brush, but it gives a nice sharper edge, and it defaults to go inside rather than outside. So when we hold Alt, it will go outside rather than inside. It's kind of vice versa, the standard brush. So what do I want to do with this one? I'm going to make my draw size a wee bit bigger, maybe put my intensity down a bit. I want to add some, let me see, I'll make it a lot smaller. I want to add some kind of chips and nicks around the end here. Oops. And I just want to start on the model. just imagine we've got loads of chips and weathering going on here. One thing that I like, I did a little test version of this before. We have some claw marks actually, as if they're coming out of the grave itself, as if we have a zombie kind of climbing out here, something like that. You don't have to do this; it's just a little something. And then yeah, just work into it, work in some details in there. I'm just adding some scores and chips. I'm not really going to overthink it very much what I'm doing here. It's just to kind of give you an idea for the process. If you don't want to do little chips and things, what we could also do is take the flatten brush, and what we'll do is we'll put the intensity up, and the flatten brush does what it sounds like. It kind of flattens bits out. So if I want to, say for example, roughen off some of these top corners here, these sharp edges, use that flatten brush and just flatten a few bits out. So you can see there's still some wee lumps here coming from the holdovers from the low poly model. If I put my intensity down a little bit and then paint over these and kind of smooth those out. But I just want to imagine as if this is kind of weathered a wee bit. It's hundreds of years old, and we're just going to make it look just that little bit weathered. And we've got these kind of remnants from the original low poly there. We can maybe just sort of smooth those out a wee bit with a flatten brush. And as I say, just the thing with ZBrush is it just takes time. We just need to start sculpting here. So I'm going to work this up a little bit and just sort of weather away some of these edges. Imagine years and years of wind and rain been battering away at this. Maybe, I don't know, depending on your game or whatever you're making, there's been trees falling down, collided with it, there's been a battle, there's been zombies climbing out of it. Who knows, whatever you want. And we're just going to chip away. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to pause the video here, and I'm going to add some more details, and then I will continue on with a few other ZBrush tips for you. Okay, welcome back. I've just spent a couple of minutes there just adding a little bit more detail to my headstone there. Nothing I hadn't already shown you. I just used the flatten tool around the edges here just to add a little bit of craggliness to it, a bit of wear and tear. Used that damn standard brush just to add some wee chips and chinks and scratches in there. Up at the top here, I just added in some wee vertical edges, as if like years and years of rain had sort of carved away some detail. I add a wee bit more detail to these kind of claw marks down at the base, and then I just, with that same damn standard brush, I just carved in a sort of a larger cut there on the surface. So just as if a big chunk of it has been knocked out, and as if it's about to be cracked all the way through. So there we go, that's really it. Last wee thing I want to do is add just a general bit of overall kind of stony texture to this. Now, we don't have to just paint on with brush strokes like this. We do have some other methods of making marks on the mesh. So over here on the left, where it says stroke, what we can actually do is click on drag rectangle, and what that will allow us to do is drag out a mark on the canvas, or on the mesh, sorry. And we also have the alpha here. Now the alpha for mine at the minute is this kind of gradiented circle, but what we can do is click on that, and it gives us a library of alpha shapes that we can use. Basically, these are brush shapes. If you're familiar with Photoshop, they're basically the same as your shape of your brush. So if I choose a random one here, and I can drag that out now and carve that into the model, and that actually looks kind of nice, you know. Yeah, I kind of like that. I might actually add that just as a bit of a decoration to the stone itself. It's kind of cool. Yeah, let's just work with that. We can weather that up a wee bit later on. But what I want to actually do is use one. Let me see, what would we go for? This one. This one's not too bad. It's not exactly what I want. We can download custom alphas, or we can make our own alphas and make one more specifically for this. but this will do nicely just to demonstrate the technique. I'm going to add, by clicking and dragging, I can add these kind of craggly patterns to it. Now, like that is very, very intense, very strong, maybe a bit too strong. So we're going to undo that. I'm going to turn the intensity way down. And with this drag rectangle mode, I'm just going to start dragging out some cracks onto the surface of my model. So I'm going to go a mixture of kind of big and small. If you go too big, they'll kind of get a wee bit blurry, a wee bit fuzzy. So you don't want to go too big. I'm just going to cover the model in just a very, very light coating of these little scraggly cracks and things, cracks and fissures. Again, it probably doesn't look exactly like real stone wood. We'd want to use a better alpha, but just from looking at the built-in ones here in ZBrush, this is probably one of the best we've got. So I'll just stick with this. I'm going to pause the video again just to fill this guy up. Just be repeating that same process, just clicking and dragging on the surface of my model and adding in these. And then I'll see you back in a couple of minutes and I'll show you how I've progressed. Okay, welcome back once more. So we left off there and I just wanted to add a little bit of texture detail, just using that same process I showed you before with the drag rectangle brush and that one texture. The only other thing I've done now is with my Dame Standard brush, I just carved in some text there. It's not very tidy, not very neat. Literally I spent 2 seconds doing that. As with the rest of the stuff in this video, you can spend more time on it, polish it up, make it look nice. I'm just going through quickly just to show you the techniques. But that, I think, is grand for my headstone now. I'm going to leave it at that. What I want to do here, first of all, I want to save it. So if I go to my tool menu, so again, another strange thing with ZBrush, we're not saving up here in the top menu, we're just saving the tool itself that we've been working on. So in tool, we go to save as, and we can save this as a ZTool file. So I've already saved this once. We'll just hit save again. Low poly mesh edge on existing, replace it. Yes, I do want to replace that. That's fine. But this is a ZTool file. There's not much we can do with that outside of ZBrush. So what we want to do now is just hit export in the same tool menu here. Just hit export. And it'll give us the option to save this as an OBJ file. So we don't confuse this with our low poly one, our original one, I'm going to change the name of this to high poly. High poly headstone mesh. And now what we've created is our original low poly, which was our FBX file. And now we have a new high poly, which is our high poly OBJ file. And when we are making game assets in game, in the engine, we want to have as small a poly count as possible, which is why we use the low poly version. And that's the version that will actually be used in game. But the high poly version we are going to use in part 3 of this series, where we look at Substance Painter and we project these high poly details onto that low poly mesh in the form of texture maps. So all of this really detailed polygon stuff is going to be converted into image data and then applied as textures rather than as polygons. So when we make our game assets, we actually do want to have 2 versions of our mesh. The low poly that is going to be in game and the high poly that we're going to get all the extra details from. So now we've exported the high poly as an OBJ file. Now we are good to move on. We can close down ZBrush and curse it for being so terrible and never look at it again. I don't really mean that. It's a great program. I just hate the interface. I'll never like it. I've never been able to like it. But I'm not going to go on a rant, so we'll leave it there. And I'll see you for part 3, where we go into Substance Painter. Thank you for watching, guys. If you have any questions at all, please leave a comment down below. Thank you very much.